The Thryzari vessel didn't land. It hovered. 10 kilometers above Earth's surface, cloaked in shimmering hexagonal plates of burnished silver, the diplomatic cruiser Istariel remained suspended in the stratosphere like a self-satisfied god waiting to be worshipped. To the Thryzari, this was protocol. To the humans, it looked like someone had forgotten how parking worked. On the tarmac of Earth's Geneva Accord nexus, 3 humans waited beside a modest landing pad. No parades, no red carpet. Just an old steel thermos steaming with coffee and a few bored-looking pigeons. The Thryzari delegation arrived via descent capsule, its surface gleaming with polished alien alloys, humming softly as it touched down with ritualistic grace. As the hatch hissed open, 6 figures stepped forward, tall, feathered and gilded in ceremonial armor that suggested both opulence and unresolved childhood trauma. Their leader, Grand Minister Saikar Valtor, moved with the practiced arrogance of someone who'd never lost a deal and didn't expect to start now. He was greeted by 3 humans. The first wore a wrinkled navy suit, his graying hair slicked back more out of obligation than success. That was Ambassador Julian Reese, Earth's lead negotiator. Beside him, Dr. Ezra Lang, cultural analyst, tapped away on a tablet with one hand and held a pretzel stick in the other. He didn't look up. And finally behind them stood Major Callum Vance, in a plain dress uniform with no medals. Just a name tag and a pair of aviators that hadn't moved since the capsule landed. Saikar blinked, his vertical pupils narrowing. "This is your delegation?" Julian smiled. "Yup." "No honor guard?" Reese sipped from his thermos. "They asked for the day off. Important rugby match." Saikar looked to his entourage, all of whom were trying very hard to pretend this wasn't going disastrously informal. "We come bearing an offer of alliance and mutual uplift. Is this how humans greet galactic opportunity?" Lang, still not looking up, muttered, "You haven't been on human TikTok, have you?" Reese chuckled, gesturing toward the glass-paneled building nearby. "Shall we? Meeting rooms got chairs, fresh water, and if you're lucky, maybe even a decent Wi-Fi signal." As they walked, Saikar whispered to his aide in Thryzari, "They're stalling, posturing. They think if they play coy, we'll sweeten the deal." Behind his sunglasses, Major Vance smiled. Inside the negotiation chamber, sunlight filtered through ceiling panels designed to mimic Earth's blue sky. No weapons, no translation delays, just a long table, data pads, and an air of mild condescension from both sides. Saikar began. "We offer humans the following: atmospheric purification modules, quantum field stabilizers, and orbital relay cores, all compatible with your primitive infrastructure." Reese nodded, pretending to jot notes. "Very kind." "In return," Saikar continued, "we request access to the mineral deposits located within your equatorial trench zones and limited orbital sovereignty for a defensive perimeter." Lang finally looked up. "Orbital sovereignty, as in you'd control parts of our sky?" "Merely for mutual protection. Pirates are increasingly active in this sector." Vance cleared his throat. "Interesting you mention that. Pirates." Saikar turned to him, surprised he'd spoken. "Do you doubt our offer?" Vance leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Just wondering why a species with gravitic shielding, wormhole tech, and interstellar dreadnoughts needs Earth's orbital permission." Saikar's jaw shifted, barely. "As we said, protection." Lang glanced at Reese. "Should we mention the thing with the moon yet?" Reese smiled thinly. "Nah, let them finish first." Saikar narrowed his eyes. "The moon?" Lang waved it off. "Sorry, just an inside joke. You were saying?" The meeting dragged for hours. The Thryzari went on about the strategic opportunity of Earth's cooperation. They referenced ancient treaties, mutual uplift, and how humanity stood to benefit from true civilization. Every time they said it, it sounded like a backhanded compliment from someone who'd never touched a doorknob. Reese remained courteous. Lang took casual notes and occasionally doodled. Vance watched. Always. When the offer was formally presented on a crystalline tablet, it gleamed like treasure from a fantasy novel. Reese took it, turned it over in his hands and said, "Neat. Did you get this from a museum gift shop?" Saikar bristled. "That artifact contains the terms of our most generous proposal." "And it is generous," Reese replied warmly. "We're flattered, really." Sykar leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Then we have an accord?" Reese stood, stretching his back. "Sure." Just like that. No counteroffer, no debate, no frantic economic projections. Just, "Sure." Sykar's entourage looked around in confusion. One of them, possibly the Thryzari equivalent of a lawyer, whispered something that might have translated to, "Wait, that was too easy." But the deal was done. Reese handed over the mineral coordinates, orbital access logs, and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Lang waved as they left. "Be careful out there. Atmosphere's weird near the equator. Something about magnetism." 3 days later, the Astariel departed Earth's orbit, its databanks filled with exclusive access documents and diplomatic clearances. The Grand Minister sat in his private chamber, basking in what he believed was a triumphant step toward planetary leverage. Humans, he thought, were clever, but oh so naive. They had no idea what those minerals were really for. And as for the tech they received, child's toys, hand-me-downs, a galactic pacifier for the ambitious toddler race. Meanwhile, back on Earth, beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, a chamber hummed to life. A technician checked her tablet, frowned, then muttered, "They took the bait." Her partner, a tired-looking man in a worn-out hoodie, nodded. "Let's move to Phase 2. Elsewhere, in low orbit, a satellite flickered invisible. Then another, then 2 more. Every one of them focused on a new object entering Earth's shared orbital space. Major Callum Vance sat in a dark room, sipping coffee from a plain black mug. "Run diagnostics," he said. A technician nearby tapped a few keys. "Thryzari signal decrypted. They're scanning mineral sites now." "Let them. Make sure they find exactly what we want them to." The technician grinned. "Dummy nodes, fake tunnels, decoy drones." "Perfect," Vance said. "Let them dream." The Thryzari probe pierced Earth's stratosphere like a silver needle threading through blue silk. It zipped toward the designated trench zones with a quiet precision, trailing a barely visible ripple of energy as it deployed scanner drones over the mineral-rich equatorial regions. At least, that's what the Thryzari thought it was doing. In truth, it was playing fetch with holographic ghosts. Each mineral deposit it scanned was meticulously crafted, layered readings of tantalum, iridium, and neutron-reactive composite, perfect on paper, utterly fake in reality. The topography had been restructured weeks in advance, using nanofilament projectors woven into the rock face. The probe relayed its findings back to the Astariel, where Sykar stood before a grand display screen, arms folded, satisfied. "Look at it," he purred, gesturing to the data like a collector admiring stolen art. "Enough resources to power 1,000 years of expansion." His aide, smaller and considerably less smug, nodded cautiously. "The readings are consistent with council-grade flux vectors. This could place us decades ahead of the Jalari and the Hisari." "And the humans?" Sykar asked, tilting his head. "Still running on combustion engines and binary code, primitive minds in an accidental civilization." Sykar grinned. "Perfect." On the other side of the galaxy, a Thryzari science vessel awaited its payload. The minerals from Earth's trench zones were vital components in a new class of hyper-reactive cores that, theoretically, could shatter moons with a single directed pulse. The vessel's commander, High Engineer Vrak, tapped her claws against a crystalline console. "Status?" "Preparing to receive first shipment," replied her officer. "Human delivery ships en route, escorts in position." Vrak squinted. "Escorts?" "Yes, Commander." The humans insisted. Her mandibles clicked. Cautious little apes, aren't they? Back on Earth, Reese stood on the loading dock of Terran Orbital Hub 3, watching the crates being stacked into sleek, blocky human cargo ships. Each crate was labeled ENV9/Neutron IC/Reactive, followed by an ominous Earth security seal. Inside the crates, rocks and Bluetooth speakers. One of them even had a lava lamp. Lang, beside him, tilted his head. "You think they'll notice?" Reese shrugged. "Eventually." Vance approached, tablet in hand. "They're already integrating our gifted tech into their grid." Lang looked up, genuinely amused. "You mean the tech we built to look slightly more advanced than what we let them see?" Vance grinned. Exactly. We're monitoring the diagnostics now. They're trying to reverse engineer code written in double encrypted emoji strings. Reese chuckled. They're going to assume it's some ancient human language. It is, Vance said. From 2006. I pulled most of it from old MySpace pages. Lang almost dropped his tablet from laughter. In the Astarial's command chamber, Sykar pored over projections. Their tech teams were running simulations based on the human upgrades. Energy density readings were higher than expected, but the core schematics made little sense. "This script," said the chief engineer, frowning at a display of squiggly icons, frogs, and what appeared to be a piece of sushi. "This may be encrypted with a cultural heuristic algorithm." Sykar narrowed his eyes. "Can we weaponize it?" "Possibly," the engineer replied, "though some segments respond to rhythmic audio patterns." "Audio?" "Yes. When we play certain Earth music, portions of the code react." Sykar leaned in. "What kind of music?" The engineer hesitated. "Something called dubstep." In a secured hangar beneath Geneva Nexus, Vance walked past crates labeled with absurd chemical formulas. A team of engineers in black jumpsuits was busy uploading data into the defense net. "Orbital grid synchronized," one of them called out. "Decoys fully operational, cloaking active. We're live." He nodded. "Trigger the deep scan scramble on their ships. Just enough interference to make them question their own sensors." Reese stepped in behind him. "You think they'll go hostile?" Vance didn't look up. "Not yet. Right now they still think they're in control." Lang entered last, holding a small plush toy. Reese raised an eyebrow. What's that?" Lang held up the stuffed alien. "Gift for Sykar's ship. It's programmed to repeat Earth's most annoying advertising jingles whenever someone scans it." Reese smiled. "You're a menace." Lang winked. "You brought me." On board the Thryzari dreadnought, the first delivery of minerals arrived. Vrak opened one of the containers personally, expecting glowing blue crystals, volatile ore, anything alien and dangerous. She found a rock. Just a rock. With googly eyes. Her assistant tilted his head. Is this part of a psychological deterrent?" Vrak slammed the crate closed and activated internal comms. "Get me Sykar, now." Sykar answered moments later, his image flickering in Vrak's chamber. "Yes." Vrak didn't waste time. "We've received the first shipment. It's garbage, not even inert minerals, literal garbage." Sykar frowned. "Impossible. The scans were fake. The deposits are synthetic. They laced the rock with broadcast illusions. This was a ruse." Sykar's feathers ruffled. "Then they've betrayed the Accord," Vrak hissed. "Worse, they've humiliated us. The tech they gave us? It's nonsense. It's a trap disguised as a gift." Sykar paced. "Then this is war." Vrak narrowed her eyes. "Are you sure? Because if they've tricked us this deeply, I'm not convinced we know what they're really capable of." In Earth's unified command hall, Major Vance reviewed the orbital feed. Thryzari patrols had begun shifting, fanning out, recalibrating sensors, clearly aware something was wrong. "Clock's ticking," Vance muttered. Reese stood behind him. "So, time to show them?" Vance nodded. With a single gesture, the orbital net activated. Invisible satellites, thousands of them, shifted formation. Each had been cloaked with phased-out tech decades beyond current council scans. Some carried fusion lances, others railgun arrays. A few, just highly reflective panels, meant to bounce signals and scramble Thryzari AI. Every one of them aimed outward, directly at the Astarial. On board the ship, alarms blared. "Unknown emissions from Earth orbit," a technician shouted. "Where? We see nothing." "That's the point," another cried. "They're hiding their fleet in the noise, the clouds, the radiation, the solar reflections. It's all been camouflaged." Sykar turned pale. "We didn't give them tech," he said softly. "They gave us bait, and we swallowed it whole." Down on Earth, Reese sipped his coffee and calmly flipped through the official ceasefire protocols. Lang leaned over his shoulder. "So, you think they'll beg or scream?" Vance didn't answer. He just watched as the Astarial's course changed. Retreat trajectory. Reese smiled. "Ah, beg it is." The Astarial didn't flee. Not exactly. It repositioned, officially noted in their logs as a strategic redeployment for orbit stabilization. But anyone watching the trajectory knew exactly what was happening. They were running, with the dignity of a peacock backing out of a room full of lions. Down on Earth, Vance leaned back in his chair and laced his fingers behind his head. And there it is, the universal sign of alien regret. Rhys nodded, still scanning the orbital feed. Slight dip in their vector, and the shields are up. Lang peered over, chewing on a pen cap. So they're preparing for a counterattack? No, Vance said. They're preparing for the embarrassment to hit the Council Newsnet. This kind of loss? They're going to pretend it didn't happen. Lang laughed. Too late. I leaked the footage of Sykar saying we were primitive minds to the Terran meme servers 12 minutes ago. Rhys blinked. You what? Lang shrugged. It already has a synthwave remix, and someone deep-faked him dancing to Earth disco. Far above, in the command room of the Astarial, Sykar Valtor's dignity was under siege. The humans baited us, Vrak repeated through the hollow channel. Every part of the deal was fabricated. Even their mineral scans included encoded subliminal messaging. I'm still hearing elevator music. Sykar's claw trembled as he clenched the edge of his command desk. They knew what we wanted. They gave it to us, carefully wrapped in sarcasm and trapdoors. Vrak's expression darkened. And now they've locked down every corridor we thought we owned. But why? Sykar asked. Why not destroy us? Vrak looked dead into the screen. Because this isn't about war. It's about humiliation. They're teaching us a lesson. A silence passed between them. And then, they're playing the long game. Aboard Earth's orbital defense nexus, Major Vance stood in a private debriefing room. On the screen before him blinked the live data stream from Project Shepherd, Satellite Hostile Engagement Protocol for Earth-wide response and deterrence. Beside him, Dr. Ezra Lang tapped his finger on a schematic of one of the Thryzari's own sensor arrays. You know what's funny, Lang said. They can't tell which part of our tech is real and which part is theater. We've blended old systems with mimics, mirrors, decoys. They're trying to decrypt a punchline. Vance didn't smile. We didn't want to beat them. Lang raised an eyebrow. No. We wanted to shake them, make them wonder how long we've been watching. Lang sat back slowly. They came here thinking they were dealing with miners and dreamers. Vance looked at the blinking data on screen. Now they're wondering if they've been standing in our experiment. Later that day, the Thryzari sent a follow-up communication. Diplomatic channel, composed, professional. Ambassador Rhys opened it on a secure monitor, flanked by Lang and a yawning Vance. Let me guess, Lang said. They want a revised agreement. Rhys pressed play. Sykar's voice came through the speakers, clipped, rehearsed, and painfully forced. Esteemed humans of Earth, upon thorough review of our initial interactions, it appears there has been confusion regarding the scope and intent of our trade agreement. Lang snorted. We therefore propose a renegotiation, one that better reflects the mutual respect between our civilizations. In the spirit of transparency and peace, we invite Earth to join us at our neutral embassy on Erebon 9, Vance rubbed his chin. An off-world meeting, that's new. Lang narrowed his eyes. A trap? Maybe, Vance said, but probably not. They're spooked. They're trying to regain control. Rhys leaned forward. Send back a message. Lang smirked. Ooh, do we get to say something ominous and cryptic? Rhys smiled. Something polite, friendly, terrifying. 30 minutes later, aboard the Astarial, Sykar received Earth's reply. The text was brief. Appreciate the invitation. Before we respond, please let us know which of your ships are real. We wouldn't want to send a decoy to a decoy. Sykar read it twice, then crushed the datapad in his claws. Back on Earth, Lang and Rhys were reviewing planetary encryption syncs while Vance met with the heads of the defense ring. Current status of the orbital mirrors? Vance asked. One of the techs replied, all operational. The reflection lattice keeps disrupting their deep scans. To them, our defense grid looks like background noise. And Phase 3. Ready, the tech said. We've integrated the Thryzari gift tech into our black box. Lang leaned in. So we're turning their own decoy tech against them? Vance cracked a rare grin. You bet. Meanwhile, far from Earth, other species were watching. On the Kalari broadcast grid, a panel of alien commentators debated the sudden silence from the Thryzari flagship. "The humans are playing a dangerous game," one said. "Or," countered another, "they've already won, and we're just late to the punchline." Inside an isolated lab buried beneath Greenland's ice, a pair of human engineers activated a system labeled Spectre Protocol. A synthetic voice echoed through the room. Defense camo synchronized. Cloaking net active. Refraction alignment complete. The wall shimmered, revealing a full-scale Thryzari ship replica, built by humans, improved by humans, and now used against the Thryzari. One of the engineers stared at it. "We spent 10 years reverse engineering their tech." "Longer," the other said, "and we improved it with Earth-based unpredictability." "What do we call this thing?" The engineer smiled. "Bait." On the bridge of the Astarial, the room was tense. The crew had stopped making jokes. Sensors were jammed, communications cut off. Every attempt to scan Earth's defenses ended in data spirals and corrupted visuals. One of the techs hissed, "Commander, are we sure they're bluffing?" Sykar didn't answer. He was too busy watching the live feed Earth had just sent. It wasn't a threat. It was footage, grainy, quiet, time-stamped from 32 years ago. In it, a human crew recovered part of a Thryzari deep space pod, something thought lost. In the footage, human scientists carefully dismantled the pod's guidance systems, mapped the encryption, and laughed when they realized how basic it was. The video ended with a single caption: "We've been listening since 2092. Thanks for all the lessons." Sykar's claws trembled. "They were never behind," he whispered. "They were watching and waiting." Back on Earth, Lang turned to Rhys as they walked through the Geneva Nexus gardens. "You think the Thryzari will try again?" Rhys paused. "No," he said finally. "They're done trying to outsmart us." Lang grinned. "And what about the others?" Rhys looked up at the sky, where dozens of alien species had once believed Earth to be naive, disorganized, desperate. "They'll come too," he said. Lang smirked. "Let me guess. With generous offers?" Rhys nodded. "And we'll smile. And we'll shake hands. And while they're watching us, we'll already be in their systems," Lang finished. Vance walked up beside them. "They bargained with humans. What they didn't realize," Rhys and Lang both turned, "was that humans never gamble unless the house already belongs to us." The message didn't spread like wildfire. That would have made it obvious. No, the footage from Earth, of the decades-old human reverse engineering of Thryzari tech, was leaked. Whispers, subtitled in 600 alien languages, downloaded in encrypted forums, circulated in hushed tones across fringe council servers and closed military networks. It wasn't the message that scared them. It was the timing. Because the moment the Thryzari started to reposition their ship from Earth's orbit, half the outer council races knew something had gone wrong. The Thryzari don't reposition. They conquer, and yet they were leaving. At the Zentari conclave on Zarim Theta, a high-ranking admiral slammed his hand down on a tactical map. This cannot be. The humans were 5 cycles away from plasma integration. 5. The room of military tacticians murmured among themselves, all staring at Earth's planetary footprint. A junior officer cleared his throat. "With respect, Admiral, I don't think they were integrating. I think they were hiding," another piped up. "They've been playing dumb." A third. "They baited the Thryzari into revealing their expansion plans, and then flipped it, without ever firing a shot." The Admiral stared at the hologram of Earth. It blinked and smiled. On board the Astarial, Sykar Valtor convened an emergency meeting with his advisors. For the first time in living memory, his feathers were ruffled, literally. The crest that had once been a symbol of unshakable composure now looked like someone had run an electric comb through it. "The Council will demand an explanation," he hissed, "and when they find out how thoroughly we were manipulated—" "They already know," his aide interrupted. "That's the problem. The humans didn't humiliate us privately. They orchestrated this, publicly." Sykar hissed, pacing. "Then we preempt them. We declare the footage falsified. Blame a rogue Earth faction." One of his generals blinked slowly. "Sir, there are Thryzari faces in the footage, from 32 years ago. One of them was your cousin." Sykar stopped. Dead silence. Meanwhile, Earth's Strategic Response Committee didn't celebrate. They prepared. Ambassador Reese read off a classified status log. Thryzari probe number 7 pulled back from Earth's outer atmosphere, detected recalibrations in 2 of their capital ships. Long-range sensors indicate diplomatic signals being broadcast toward 3 rival species. Lang, munching popcorn, raised an eyebrow. Trying to rally allies? Vance leaned over the table. More like trying to form a counter-story. They know they lost the game. Now they're trying to rewrite the rulebook. Lang tapped his tablet. We've already got countermeasures in motion. I've got teams feeding half the galaxy rumors about Earth's supposed black hole engine. Reese raised an eyebrow. We don't have a black hole engine. Lang shrugged. They don't know that. In a quiet chamber beneath Earth's Siberian covert facility, codenamed Black Echo, 3 human scientists were feeding raw data into a neural archive. Above them hovered a simulated recreation of Thryzari military tactics pulled from decades of intercepted comms. Project Mimic is almost complete, one of them whispered. We've mapped enough of their strategy tree to predict fleet movement up to 3 days in advance. Another smiled. They wanted minerals. They didn't realize we were mining them the entire time. A voice over the comms chimed in. You're not just predicting them, you're training our own commanders in their place. The scientist grinned. Exactly. We're teaching ourselves to fight like them, just better. Far from Earth, Thryzari diplomatic envoys arrived at the Council's core assembly. Their goal? Damage control. The result? A disaster. The envoys' presentation included charts, technical readouts, and bold claims that humans had violated interstellar ethics by using diplomatic misdirection. One of the councillors, an aged Karathi named Seln-Zun, tilted her head and asked dryly, You mean lying? The Thryzari sputtered. Seln-Zun continued, You lied to them about the value of your tech. You lied about the minerals, and they lied back. They just did it better. Murmurs, nods. One councillor leaned forward. Sounds like you lost a trade war, not a battle. Another chimed in. And now you're here trying to regulate cleverness? Laughter spread. Diplomatic. Deadly. Back on Earth, Vance stared at a 3D projection of the galaxy. Thryzari influence zones are shrinking, the analyst beside him noted. Several fringe species are pulling trade routes away from their space. Lang smirked. We didn't beat them with war. We beat them with reputation loss. Is that permanent? Reese asked, crossing his arms. Lang turned to him. Number, which is why we're not done. He pulled up another file, a detailed mapping of upcoming interstellar conferences, neutral summits, and new trade negotiations. Time to go meet the rest of the galaxy, Lang said. Let's smile at them too. Sykar sat alone in his quarters. The Astarial was quiet, too quiet. In his hands was the last message Earth had sent him, a private one this time, not leaked, not meant for public shame. It simply read, We accepted your deal not because we were desperate, but because we needed you to believe we were. Thank you for your cooperation. And below it, a timestamp, one that matched the exact moment they'd sent the original proposal to Earth. 30 seconds after that message, Earth's global defense grid had quietly gone online. They had anticipated this, planned it, played along. Sykar whispered to no one, They planned this whole thing, from the beginning. On Earth, in a council room filled with subdued light and polished wood, the human delegation was preparing new files, not for war, for trade. Now that Thryzari influence is wavering, said Reese, we can begin establishing Earth-based commerce hubs, strategic partnerships. Lang tossed him a folder. Already vetted a dozen minor species, most of them avoided the Thryzari out of fear. Now, they want to buy Earth-made tech. Reese flipped through the offers. We still pretending our tech is slightly inferior? Lang grinned. Of course, nothing scarier than a polite monkey who claims not to know how his toys work. Vance entered, datapad in hand. We've been contacted by the Karathi. They want to visit Earth, tour our factories. Real ones or fake ones? Reese asked. Vance smiled. Both. Let's keep the mystery alive. In the darkness of Earth's defense command, dozens of hidden platforms waited. Satellites disguised as stars. Signal repeaters masked as junk. One by one, their systems pinged alive, not to fire, but to listen. Across the void, humans had once watched the galaxy like children peering through a keyhole. Now, they were the ones holding the keys and smiling. 2 months after the Astarial quietly limped back into Thryzari space, the galaxy began to shift. Trade routes redrew themselves, diplomatic channels rerouted, old alliances hesitated before speaking with former powerhouses, while new voices emerged, softly at first, but increasingly bold. And at the center of it all, Earth, the young, chaotic, previously dismissed blue world, now treated with the kind of reverent paranoia usually reserved for black holes. At the Vexari Trade Summit, an annual gathering notorious for double-dealing and passive-aggressive compliments, Earth's delegation walked in late, deliberately late. Reese, Lang, and Vance entered wearing tailored black suits with no insignias, no flags, no ornaments. They walked with the confidence of apex predators who'd politely RSVP'd. Every eye in the chamber followed them. Even the Jalari, who once refused to acknowledge Earth's existence, paused their whispered scheming to adjust their translator frequencies. Sitting at the main table, Reese smiled at the crowd. "Sorry for the delay," he said. "We were finalizing some trade routes." The room chuckled nervously. Vance didn't say a word. He just placed a small cube on the table and tapped it. A hologram flickered to life. Dozens of non-aligned species that had just signed bilateral pacts with Earth. None of them were Thryzari. Lang leaned back. "Guess the galaxy does appreciate reliable business partners." On Thryzar Prime, Seekar stood before a private committee of elders. Not the military, not the diplomats, the real power behind the Empire. They weren't angry. They were worse. Silent. Seekar finished his report. "In summary, the humans dismantled our strategic leverage without a single missile. They embarrassed us, stripped us of our orbital claims, and cost us 3 critical supply alliances. And they smiled while doing it." An old elder blinked. "And you let them?" Sykar's feathers flared. Number Y underestimated them. A pause. Then, "So did we." Another elder, ancient and soft-voiced, spoke up. "Do you think they want war?" "No," Sykar said. "I think they want control." At Earth's deep command in the Andes Mountains, a new construction project had just completed. Project Threshold. A gate. Not a portal, at least not yet, but a planetary-scale scaffold powered by experimental human-engineered physics, derived partially from old Thryzari schematics. Lang called it our biggest prank yet. Reese called it insurance. Vance naturally called it classified. The Council didn't know about Threshold, not yet, but several orbital probes, poorly cloaked and badly disguised as passing debris, were already recording heat signatures. That was intentional. "Let them guess," Vance told the oversight team. "You sure we want to bait them again?" asked the engineer. "No," he said, sipping his coffee. "This time, we're baiting everyone." Meanwhile, in the darker corners of the galactic net, anonymous chatter buzzed. Earth's developing wormhole-class infrastructure. They cracked interdimensional shielding. They have cloaked battle cruisers that can mask entire continents. Of course, none of that had been confirmed. But the real truth? The rumors themselves were the weapon. Lang took to posting on galactic forums under the alias Spacelad42. His latest post, "Can confirm. Earth once reverse-engineered a Thryzari core just to power a microwave that makes popcorn in 0.03 seconds. Don't mess with them." By the time anyone figured out it was fake, 10 alien races had already pulled tech envoys off Earth in sheer panic. Reese found the post later and frowned. "Lang, you're destabilizing the diplomatic ecosystem." Lang grinned. "You say that like it's a bad thing." Then came the unexpected. A signal. Encrypted. Primitive, almost. Buried beneath layers of obsolete code. It came from beyond the known council sectors, from what was once considered uninhabitable space. It was a message, 3 words. "We saw everything." Earth's intelligence network decoded the signal and traced its path through shattered comm satellites, forgotten relay beacons, and an abandoned Thryzari mining rig that hadn't transmitted in 40 years. Reese sat with Vance and Lang in the secured war room as the final logs came through. "Who sent it?" Lang asked. Vance's face was unreadable. "Someone we didn't know was watching." Lang's voice dropped. "That's impossible. We watched them." Vance didn't blink. "Exactly." A week later, an unidentified vessel entered Sol space. No weapon signature, no matching registry, no council flag. It didn't approach Earth directly. It just parked itself at the edge of the solar system and broadcast one simple file to all major planetary networks. The footage was old, from Earth, from the Cold War, human submarines drifting beneath polar ice, nuclear silos in winter fields, soldiers staring into the void of mutually assured destruction. And overlaid, a single phrase in translated binary: "You were monsters before you reached the stars." For the first time since the Thryzari incident, Reese's hands trembled as he paused the file. Lang exhaled. "They weren't afraid of our tech." Vance finished it for him. "They're afraid of what we were before we got it." Later, sitting alone on a balcony overlooking Geneva, Reese sipped from his thermos. Lang joined him, quiet for once. "You think we pushed too far?" Lang finally asked. Reese didn't answer at first. Then, "No. We didn't start the bluff. We just ended it." Lang nodded. "So what now?" Reese leaned back and stared at the stars. "Now, we wait for the ones who didn't laugh." In deep space, beyond every map, the unknown watchers sat in silence, studying humanity, not for their weapons, not for their strategies, but for the fact that humans, fragile, chaotic, irreverent humans, had weaponized misunderstanding itself. The greatest threat was not Earth's strength, it was their ability to smile while holding a knife and make you thank them for the handshake. The end. Let me know if you'd like. Scene prompts, 10 high-quality still image generation prompts, YouTube description, SEO tags, thumbnail prompt plus text encrypted, primitive, almost, buried beneath layers of obsolete code. It came from beyond the known council sectors, from what was once considered uninhabitable space. It was a message, 3 words. We saw everything. Earth's intelligence network decoded the signal and traced its path through shattered comm satellites, forgotten relay beacons, and an abandoned Thryzari mining rig that hadn't transmitted in 40 years. Reese sat with Vance and Lang in the secured war room as the final logs came through. "Who sent it?" Lang asked. Vance's face was unreadable. "Someone we didn't know was watching." Lang's voice dropped. "That's impossible. We watched them." Vance didn't blink. "Exactly." A week later, an unidentified vessel entered Sol space. No weapon signature, no matching registry, no council flag. It didn't approach Earth directly. It just parked itself at the edge of the solar system and broadcast one simple file to all major planetary networks. The footage was old, from Earth, from the Cold War, human submarines drifting beneath polar ice, nuclear silos in winter fields, soldiers staring into the void of mutually assured destruction. And overlaid, a single phrase in translated binary: "You were monsters before you reached the stars." For the first time since the Thryzari incident, Reese's hands trembled as he paused the file. Lang exhaled. "They weren't afraid of our tech." Vance finished it for him. "They're afraid of what we were before we got it." Later, sitting alone on a balcony overlooking Geneva, Reese sipped from his thermos. Lang joined him, quiet for once. "You think we pushed too far?" Lang finally asked. Reese didn't answer at first. Then, "No. We didn't start the bluff. We just ended it." Lang nodded. "So what now?" Reese leaned back and stared at the stars. "Now, we wait for the ones who didn't laugh." In deep space, beyond every map, the unknown watchers sat in silence, studying humanity, not for their weapons, not for their strategies, but for the fact that humans, fragile, chaotic, irreverent humans, had weaponized misunderstanding itself. The greatest threat was not Earth's strength, it was their ability to smile while holding a knife and make you thank them for the handshake. The end. Let me know if you'd like. Scene prompts, 10 high-quality still image generation prompts, YouTube description, SEO tags, thumbnail prompt plus text overlay.